So I'm actually going to wait just a moment for 11 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 o'clock here in the UK.
Yeah. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is David McLeod. I am speaking to you from San Francisco area of Northern California. And unfortunately, my co-host, Tommy Stoffel, is not here today. He's away on business, and so I'm running the show by myself. So it's probably going to be very different, but that's cool, too. But, you know, I have a wonderful guest here with me today, Sara Jane, who is from the UK. And Sara Jane has a really beautiful and interesting story about her life, and she has developed a practice of what's called sound energy healing and toning and that sort of thing. And so welcome, Sara. Good to have you here on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure, and I've loved your programs up to now. So to be a part of it is wonderful.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sara. And what I'd like to get started, I just want to ask you something. Now, the title of the show, of course, is Life Matters TV. So one of the questions that I'd like to put to you, just to get us started, is can you give us a little bit of a sense, a little flavor of what really matters to you in life?
Loving others, caring about others.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the most important part to me is the care of yourself, the love of yourself, because if you don't, how can you really truly give to others? And I suppose that I do that in my own way of helping people to connect with their inner child and heal their inner child. And a lot of most children have been hurt. They've had traumas. And what I do is help people heal that inner child. And as the child is healed, becomes happier, more confident, so does the adult. And so it is about learning to love yourself.
Right.
And life matters as self.
That's great. I like that. And you know, well, you and I have done a session together. I remember that it was a really, really beautiful session, and I know that I got to get in touch with my inner little boy, and it was a very, very powerful and healing process for me. And you and I have talked about this quite a bit after the fact, and for the benefit of our listeners, I'd like to just add that it really gave me a sense of inner peace as a result of doing that work. I think what happens is, and I really like your referral to the inner child, because what happens, I think, is if our inner child is ignored and not treated with love and respect and has been wounded, and we're not doing our best as adults to do our own self-parenting, then what happens is that inner child tends to act out, and it acts out in ways that can be potentially harmful to us. And so getting back in touch with that part of ourselves and being able to do that work is really powerful, and it served me very well.
Brilliant. To me, what happens to us as a child, if we're told off or someone says something that hurts us, I think what we do is, I'd like to be liked. That aspect of me, that part of me, they don't like that. So we start to disconnect ourselves from aspects of ourselves. And so whereas we're born very whole, perfect, we start getting rid of aspects of ourselves because of that fear within so many of us of not being liked, of not being loved, of not being wanted, not being worthy. There's so many words you can use.
Absolutely.
But we lose ourselves in the process.
Yes.
And so what I can help people to do is reconnect with those aspects that they've disconnected from.
Mm-hmm.
But that child is still there. That hurt child is still there. And so many people experience that once they are actually there with their inner child and giving that child the hug it required at the time it didn't get it, the difference it makes even within the adult, because that sense of love, that sense of caring, because what we've done is we've rejected ourselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very accurate description of it, and that certainly resonates for me. the need, I think, to be loved and cared for, and to believe that we are valuable. It's easy for us as children to misinterpret, being told off. I think those are the words you used, or being punished in any way, and somehow interpreting that as it means that I'm bad, that I'm not good enough, that I'm somehow a failure, or you get what I'm saying. This is what happens to all of us. And so I guess the objective here is to get back underneath that belief that we've taken on, and find a way of deconstructing it, and then reconstructing a new belief that says, wait a minute, yes, you may have done something that somebody else got upset about, but that doesn't mean anything about you as a person. Absolutely.
See, to me, to children, everything is black and white.
Yeah, you got that right.
Okay? There is no in-between ground. So as a child, if your parents turn around and said, we're going to the beach at the weekend, for a lot of kids that would be anticipation, excitement. They'd be really looking forward to it. That's the one that they don't go. What they don't understand is that bit that's happened in the middle.
Mm.
The car's broken down.
Mm-hmm.
Or grandparents become ill, or something has happened that prevents the parents from being able to do what they probably wanted to do themselves.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's circumstances outside of our control. And until you get to an age where you understand circumstances outside your control, it is black and white, excitement, absolute disappointment, and letdown.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't understand and realize that there are times when things just don't happen however much you'd like them to.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. And I can certainly resonate with black and white thinking. I mean, some of that has even carried out into my adult life, I hate to admit. And it's only been because of some of the personal growth work I've done relatively recently, in the last 20 years or so, that I've learned to distinguish those things. So that's a really good point. So I think my little boy had been acting out a lot longer than I want to admit.
Well, the one thing I encourage people to do after a session is to go out and play with their inner child.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I actually live by the beach here in Bournemouth, or relatively close to it, and clients that actually can physically come to me, great. And I said, even if it's just go down to the beach, shoes and socks off, build a sandcastle, have an ice cream, paddle in the sea, but just let your child out to play.
Yeah.
And I've had people that have actually gone and done that, and so the messages I've got afterwards, it was fantastic, it was wonderful, haven't laughed so much in a long time, because they've gone and let the child really play. And so many people that have been hurt as a child, especially whether it's traumatic in respect of injuries and hospitalization, or whether it's traumatic in verbal, I'm not going to use the word abuse, but words can be so painful, hurtful, traumatic. One word can severely hurt a child.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel that lack of love, being wanted, unworthiness, and all the rest of it, you almost lose your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's then bringing the child back out and allowing the child to truly have a bit of their childhood that they missed out on.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and so I know that you use sound as a mechanism, as a medium for helping people to get in touch with their inner child. How did you get involved in that? And tell us a little bit about how that works.
I suppose the whole thing with sound has developed for me in the way I use it. But when I learned Reiki, my Reiki master then did a little workshop on different sounds. And one of the sounds within that workshop was the toning, was the use of the voice. And I fell in love with it the minute we did it. And it was just, how can I bring this into my work. And I think what people have to realize is I've been working with sound energy for about 10 years, but it's only really been within the last sort of 18 months to 2 years that I've started to really work with it. I mean, I think the session that we did was sort of just over a year ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it's only been developing for a fairly short period of time in respect of the working within a child. But I had to go through my own healing process as well. And the reason I think that I work within a child with people is because of my own story. So I shared very briefly what that is.
Yes, yes.
Just before my first birthday, I was scalded by a boiling milk coffee that went all over my face, and the jumper I was wearing stuck to my neck. And there's actually still the scar there. I was hospitalized for 3 months.
Wow.
Now, this was 55 years ago, at a time when parents couldn't stay with their children. Hospital rules were every other day for an hour. My parents were quite a distance from the hospital, so it resulted in being once a week for an hour. For a child that spent her first birthday in hospital. So I was so young. And that was just total rejection to me because I didn't understand the circumstances that surrounded it. The adult does, the child doesn't. I came out of hospital, my parents had moved, so I didn't even go home to familiar surroundings. My mother was heavily pregnant with my sister Gillian, who was born in the August and died 9 weeks later.
Oh my God.
And that was all by the time I was 18 months old. So I'd loved my parents and felt they didn't want me. I loved my sister and she left my life. There were lots of other things that happened. And one of the things that I've realized now within my own healing process is because I changed my name. Now, you've introduced me as Sara Jane, and that's very much what I use for my work these days. I will say to people, please call me Sarah. But as a child, I was Jane. I was christened Sara Jane, no hyphen. As a child, I was Jane. And I changed it. I changed school, we'd moved town, nobody knew me. I went to my new school and said, I'm Sarah. And within my healing process, I was walking out on a local heathland and I was communicating with myself, with Jane. And it was then that the light came on.
This was recently, this
was back, no, it's probably back about 10 years ago now, 10 years ago. But what I realized was I had been the biggest rejecter of me when I changed my name.
Bingo.
Which is how I know that name is so important. And as much as I work with toning the voice, and I definitely don't control what comes through me, the only control I have is when I use somebody's name. And I do tone people's name. And it's one of the best ways to help people feel so much better about themselves. So much better about. I mean, you experienced your name being toned.
Yes.
Share how that felt.
Oh boy, how did that feel? It's hard to describe it in words. It's more, for me, it was like traveling back in time, and just I could actually feel myself. It felt like I was literally moving when you were toning my name. And you were using my childhood name of Dave. I generally don't go by that anymore. Little Dave is, because I remember everybody called me that. And so as a boy, that was my name. And so when you started toning that, I could feel myself moving back in time. It was almost a physical movement. And as I was getting closer and closer to being, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 years old or something like that, I just noticed that my whole body seemed to be opening up, and tears started flowing freely, quite freely. I started sobbing, I recall, and it was just a very liberating almost exhilarating feeling, just to reconnect to that part of me and to feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, and people feel it. Some people hate their name, but that's because whenever people say your name, they want something.
Seems that way
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's because that's what we remember. As a child, if they didn't want something, we were in trouble.
Yeah.
The human being is very, very good at remembering the negative.
Mm-hmm.
And forget all those occasions where your name is said with love, caring, and concern. You know, you fell over as a child and your mother was there, and brushing your knee, kissing your knee better, whatever it was, and they were there for you with love.
Mm-hmm.
But what you remember is the when you were being told off and when you were always being asked to do something. So we're very good at remembering the negative around our name.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And as you say that, I'm kind of wondering, well, why is that? Why are we so good at, kind of hanging on to the negative and just kind of forgetting about all that good stuff? I mean, I know, in an intellectual way, I understand it has something to do with the ego mind versus the spiritual part of ourselves, but I've never quite figured out why it happens this way. I think that there's probably some correlation to ego mind being designed to keep us safe. And so if we think we're unsafe, the ego mind's doing things to try and redirect us into whatever safety it imagines we need in order to avoid the danger that it's imagining. Does that resonate for you?
It does in some respects, but I also think, what do we see so much on television? The news is all negative. There is so much negative that surrounds us. And it's almost the negative that is highlighted. And if you've got parents that highlight the negative, grandparents, friends, school stuff, teachers, where it's all the negative that appears to have a much stronger energy than the positive stuff.
Yeah,
and it's moving away from the negative. It's encouraging ourselves to when something goes wrong, exactly, we've got that word wrong. It isn't just a matter of, okay, that's happened, right, what can we take from it? We're not taught that. We're taught something is wrong.
Yeah, exactly. As you were saying that, I was realizing, I don't watch a lot of TV these days. In fact, I don't watch any TV. I do watch videos. I like watching videos, that sort of thing, but I don't watch television per se. And so I don't pay much attention to live news or any of that stuff. And so for me, I understand what you're saying, and I agree that what news I do see does seem to be very focused on the negative. But what I have observed for myself is when I turn off the TV and turn off all of these external input devices that have information for me and just look at the world. In fact, it's neither really super positive nor super negative. It's just kind of mostly fairly neutral. And there are great things, there are things that happen, and some of them I decide are great, and some of them I decide are not so great. So it's really just about observing that there is this idea of what's happening, and then there's a separate idea of how I'm thinking about it, how I'm judging it, how I am interpreting it. And I believe that's true for all of us. And the problem is that we can kind of get caught up in this whole interaction with one another saying, well, I think it's this bad, and you say, no, I think it's this bad, and we just kind of compare until we get it so it's so bad we don't know what to do about it anymore. That's pretty weird, but I think that kind of describes what goes on sometimes.
But I think, sort of your immediate reaction, if you booked a flight for a holiday and you missed it,
mm-hmm.
you go into that immediate negative, don't you? Of what you're missing out on. But the next incident, and I hope and pray, I would never wish this on anybody, but then you hear the plane's crashed. Your disappointment and everything else is turned into absolute relief, and because you could have been on that plane.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very good at initially looking at the negative. It's like it's happened for a reason. I don't know what that reason is. I wasn't meant to be on that plane or that train or that whatever. And even if there isn't an accident, you just accept the fact that there's a very good reason. Maybe there is someone you're meant to meet in that airport or that train station that you wouldn't have done if you'd got on that plane or train.
Yeah.
We'll never know necessarily, but sometimes we do. My wake-up call was a broken jaw. Dentist broke it, extracting a wisdom tooth, 6 months of pain and sleepless nights. Didn't actually know it was broken for a week. And at the time, no, it really wasn't, fun at all. But now I look at it and I think, do you know something? That is one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it woke me up to my life.
Right.
And that's this coming to stuff in a positive.
Right.
I know we're meant to be talking about sound and toning. So how about, and I'm loving the conversation, but I'm very aware we have a 30-minute session only. I
was just going to bring us back to that, actually. And see if we could. Let's see. You talked about possibly doing some toning as a demonstration here, and I see we've got there's Joanne, Jules, Candy, and I'm not seeing that name. Joanne, Jules, Candy, and Maria. You got 4 names there. Would you like to just choose one and tone it as if that was the child's name, so people can understand what this process looks like?
Okay, it would help if one of them could let me know whether actually that name was what they were called as a child, because I like permission to use the name they were called as a child.
Okay.
If not, I will pick one. But sort of it does, and I can also do David as well, because I don't know whether you've experienced David. I know you experienced Dave.
Yeah. Well, so let me just ask these listeners if one of them is willing to give us their childhood name so that they can experience having that called. If you do, just type that name into the chat box, and I'll be watching for that. And so hopefully somebody will respond and give us.
How about if I just do a couple of tones so people can experience toning without the name?
Sure, and you can use my name if you want to use the name too.
Yeah, okay. So, right.
Beautiful. Yeah, that really, I can feel that again. It's not quite the same feeling as when you toned my childhood name when we did the actual session back in November, I think it was, or maybe a little bit before that. But I noticed there's a couple of people who have responded now, and so we've got. I put my glasses on to read it too. Yeah, you can see it. So we've got Candy as a childhood name. We've got.
No, Candy childhood name. My real name is Catherine. Yeah. Julene
is another one. Joanne. So you could use one of those and try it and see how they might respond.
I'd love to know is it Julene is meant to be said.
Julene, yeah, it could be, I don't know. I don't know.
And I don't, because I like to get the pronunciation right. So how we can do a little bit of Candy, and then we'll see about a little bit of Joanne. Should we go with Candy? Okay.
Yeah.
So Candy, relax. Probably best to close your eyes and just enjoy. Candy, 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 candy.
Lovely, lovely.
Do Joanne, and then just see something else has come up as well. So we'll do Joanne, and then we'll come back to that one. Okay.
Oh,
So
and we got a pronunciation for Jules' name. It's Julene.
Julene.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Let's do Joanne, and then we'll do Julene. So just relax and close your eyes, and just feel it. Joanne, 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 right, Julene, yeah? Julene, 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 Julene,
That's beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. And just for the benefit of the people who are listening, I'd just like you to know that you have to imagine a little bit. But when I had my experience, Sarah was basically toning my voice. I was lying flat on a table, and she was just kind of moving, and the voice was moving over my body, and so I could feel the physical vibration as well as hearing the sound. And it was even that much more powerful for me. And the whole process lasted, what, about 15 minutes or something like that. It was extremely healing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be posting a link here to Sarah's video. I'm going to do this right here. And you can go and check this out later and watch some additional stuff that Sarah has to offer. But we are approaching the end of our time here today, and so Sarah, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining me and for bringing your brand of healing to the mix and for sharing it with our viewers.
My pleasure. But people can get just as much benefit over the internet.
Yeah.
That there's been an experience where my mic stopped and I still toned, and everybody still felt it.
Wow.
So the sound energy, I know that everybody gets exact, and I've worked with people via Skype. I know sound energy works whether I'm in the room personally or whether it's over the internet or via phone.
Right.
So I
No.
hope people enjoyed this. I always love sharing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. And so everyone, I really appreciate your joining me here today and for sharing time with myself and with Sarah. Next week, I'm going to be getting together with Tommy again, and our topic is going to be, well, I'm leaving this kind of open, but it's going to be about friendship and the importance of friendship. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say. So I hope to see you all next week. Bye now.
Bye, folks.